Welcome everyone, I'm Mr. Reeves, and today we're going to be talking about prime factorization. And so let's go ahead and start with the definition of prime factorization. So prime factorization, a whole number written as the product of primes. So here's an example over here of the prime factorization. It says the prime factorization of 54 is 54 equals 2 times 3 times 3 times 3, and that can be also written as 2 times 3 to the third power. And we're going to show you how to use factor trees today to set up this prime factorization. So let's take the number 16. Take 16 and we're going to make two branches. This is like a tree. So we have this number 16. I have a branch going this way and this way, and that represents two numbers that I can multiply to give me 16. Well, I'm going to choose 2 and 8. You also could have chose 4 and 4. So those are some different ones. Now the ones we don't want to choose is 1 and 16. We don't want to use 1 when we're dealing with factor trees. So once I have this, I have 2 times 8 gives me 16. Then I'm going to circle the number that is prime. Well, I know 2 is prime, and so that I'm going to circle it and make it look like a fruit. So that's my fruit, my orange, or whatever. And then I ask myself, is 8 prime? And we know that 8 is not prime. Let's refresh our memory on what prime is. Prime means that it only has two factors, 1 and itself. Well, 8 has more than two factors. We have 2 times 4. So I'm going to make more branches. I'm going to go 2 times 4. Once again, I'm going to ask myself, is 2 prime? Well, obviously it is because we circled it above, so I'm going to circle it again. Then I'm going to say, is 4 prime? Well, we know that any even number greater than 2 is not going to be prime, it's going to be composite, because 2 is the only even prime number. And so we're going to break that down again, and 2 times 2. Circle those. Now when I have this, I'm going to pick my fruit. So when I mean pick the fruit, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to say that equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So I'm going to circle all the ones I circled. There's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's check something out. Let's multiply it out. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. When I've done that, I notice that 16 is the number that we started with, so I'm good. I did it right. So this is the prime factorization. Now we want to shorten it. And so how many 2's do we have? We have 4 of them, so it's going to be 2 raised to the 4th power. And so that's the same thing as 16. So that's a basic understanding of factor trees, and we're going to go ahead and get working on the worksheet today. And so let's go on to the next page and talk about our worksheet. And so on this worksheet, we have 12. 12 is our first number. And so I'm going to choose two numbers that go into 12. Now I'm going to choose 3 times 4. And what I want you to do is choose 2 times 6. I want to see if we can get the same thing. So 2 times 6 is 12 and 3 times 4 is 12. Let's see if we can get the same thing. So as you're working on that, I'm going to go ahead and work on mine. Well, I ask myself, is 3 prime? Yes, it is, so I'm going to circle it. Is 4 prime? Well, we know that 4 isn't prime because it's greater than 2 and it's even. And so I'm going to make my little branches. And then what two numbers can I multiply to give me 4? 2 times 2. Those are also prime. Then I'm going to pick my fruit. So I pick my fruit and I get 2 times 2 times 3. Now you're going to notice that I kind of put it in order from least to greatest. It doesn't matter order for multiplication, but mathematicians, they like to see it in some type of order. And so 2 times 2 times 3. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. So we know that that's correct. Then I'm going to shorten it by using powers. So I'm going to say 2 to the 2nd power because there's 2 2's, 1, 2. And there's only one 3, so it's just going to be times 3. Now we're going to look for it over here, which is the letter B. I'm going to cross that off, and C, I'm going to put the letter B underneath 1. Now, if you did 2 times 6, you should have got the exact same thing. So if you didn't, you must have done some steps wrong, and double check it again. Now, I'm going to choose two more numbers that I can multiply together to give me 20. And I'm going to choose 20 and 10. We also could choose 4 and 5. It doesn't matter what we choose, but I'm going to just choose these two. So, we know that 2 is prime and 10 isn't, so I'm going to break it down even further, which is 10 is 2 times 5. 2 is prime, and we know that 5 is prime. Now I pick my fruit, 2, 2, and 5. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20. So we know that this is correct. We got it good. Then I'm going to shorthand it, which is 2 to the second power times 5. And there we go. Let's do another one together. And that's the letter H. Well, factors of 35 is 7 and 5. Now, we know that 7 doesn't break down, it's prime, and 5 doesn't break down, it's prime. And so, what we could do is we could say that 5 times 7 is our prime factorization of 35. That's the letter E. Now, 36 is a little bit tricky. We go 6 times 6. Well, I didn't choose any number that's prime. Uh-oh, no big deal. We're just going to break down both of them. So 3 times 2 and 3 times 2. Now we have prime numbers. Let's circle those. Pick our fruit. 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Once we picked our fruit, then we're going to shorthand it. 2 to the second power because there's 2 2's, and 3 to the second power because there's 3 2's. I mean 2 3's, excuse me. There's 2 3's. Cross it off. That's letter R. Now this next one, 75, I'm going to go 5 times 15. You could also chose 3 times 25. Doesn't matter. I know that 5's prime, 15's not, so I'm going to break it down. Times 3 times 5. And that gives me 3's prime and 5's prime. Now the reason why I know that they're prime is because they only have factors 1 in itself. And so we just leave it like that. We pick our fruit. Then we shrink it. Well, let's just double check. 3 times 5 is 15 times 5 is 75. So we're good. And so we're good to go. That's going to be the letter D. I hope you enjoyed this quick lesson on factor trees. Remember, if you have any questions, check out the website at mreeves.com. And if you have any questions, select the Help tab and post your question on there. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, brought to you by Mr. Eaves.